I'm going to the Sevan podcast. Bam. I'm opening up. Oh, how do I get to live? What do I click to see the live show? Does anyone know? Oh, oh, there it is. Oh shit! And you got a cute picture of Dave. I think that one belongs on episode 89, but that works for this one too. Always use the Dave Castro when you can. And we are live with 2 people watching. Hobart, what's up? Where you at, buddy?
To the evening instead of the morning.
I'm here. I'm ready.
Oh, are you in Madison?
I'm in Madison. We're in our hotel right now. We just kind of spent the day checking in and walking around and enjoying all that the beautiful city of Madison has to offer. Hotel.
Awesome. And Brian, are you in Madison also?
I am. James, did you check in today or tomorrow?
Wow. Thanks for letting me know you're here, Brian. Very cool. Yeah, I
don't want to bother the athletes when they're preparing for competition. You guys know this.
True. He's consistent.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah,
pretty amazing. You remembered he's an athlete. That's fucking.
It is.
Awesome.
Thanks, Sevan. It is amazing. Yeah, we checked in today.
He's one of the athletes I'm betting on this week.
Hobart, Brian doesn't seem too interested in it, but I want to let you know that I'm very interested in getting you and Zach Forrest on the show. Either sometime tomorrow. I'll start a text thread. I'll continue the text thread. Does that interest you, Hobart?
Yeah, I'll see Zach tomorrow, so I'll tell him.
Even without Brian, you still would come on the show with me?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're a good dude.
Was the check-in process nice, James?
The check-in process was amazing. Noble has done a really awesome job setting it up, and the flow is super easy today. And everyone I'll tell you this, everyone seems super happy, whether it's volunteers, athlete control, Noble team, just to have a live event. It's a good vibe, man. It was really, really fun to be there.
Matt O'Keefe was nice enough to take me back there and show me the process and explain to me how they order all the different age groups and people coming in, and it did seem very seamless and very enjoyable for everyone I saw back there.
Did you get any free gear, Brian?
What were you going to say about the top 40 something?
Did you get any free gear while you were back there? You said Matt O'Keefe was very nice. I'm trying to figure out if he really was very nice. You get a shirt?
I stole something out of one of the athletes' lockers. That's it.
Awesome.
What size shoe are you?
Me? 9.
Oh, okay.
Oh, were you going to give him one of your pair, Hobart?
Absolutely.
Wow, I saw that. And what size shoe are you?
10 and a half.
Figures. Are there 40 men competing this weekend? How many showed up, Brian?
There are 38 men registered to compete. 2 of the 3 men from Russian have been unable to make the trip, Stas Soldav and Roman Krenikov. And so we're at 38 for the men.
Okay, and that's a shame because their names are so fun to say. I like that. I like anything with an ov at the end.
But what about Alexander Ilin?
Alexander Ilin is scheduled to compete. He said he would be arriving actually yesterday. I haven't confirmed that he's here yet or not, but he competed in 2019. And my suspicion, this is not a confirmation, is that because he'd either done the process back then and it's still like carried over for a couple years, or he was just familiar enough with it to make it happen in the short enough time frame. He's the only Russian athlete of 9. There was a team, 1 woman, 3 men, and 1 masters. He's the only one who was able to make the trip. Oh, but that might not be true, actually. The masters athletes is a question mark.
We see a drop down. The YouTube, Brian, the YouTube people can see now your slides. Maybe that's bad for the show. I just liked our own
slides.
Yeah, one of your slides. Look at he's gone into a deep panic. They're very small, so I don't know. Everyone, close your eyes. Don't look at the YouTube station right now.
Where are they?
I'm watching. I have the YouTube chat open in case anyone makes a comment. Well said, Ryan. Yep. Even if it was, that was the right thing to say. And I just liked our own video. I have no problem. I like all my own Instagram posts. I'm a leader. I lead. So We are going to, Brian is going to share with us places 1 through 38 of the men. That is going to be the first podcast, episode 90. We'll take a small 2-minute break, and then we'll go through the women. So if you're busy this week and you can't watch the games, don't worry. Brian's going to let you know everyone's placement right now. If you don't want to know how people are going to place ahead of time, probably just turn this show off because he's going to ruin it.
I feel like
for all of
we
us.
have to. I have to say something before we start, and it's, obviously all these athletes are incredible, and most people would put out their top 3, 5, 10, or whatever, but not go all the way down to the bottom of the list. But this is the top of the sport. Someone has to finish first, someone has to finish last, and there can only be one person at each spot in between. So this is, I'm not disrespecting any of these athletes. I'm just saying that relative to the field, this is how I think it's going to fall.
Yeah, in all seriousness, I respect the shit out of you for doing this. It's like going to the world's largest dick competition and getting on the table and dropping your pants. I mean, what you are doing by sharing this all the way down to 38 is making yourself extremely vulnerable, especially since you're in the hive. So thank you for doing this. And Hobart and I will try to use our discretion as we laugh at your choices and attack you, realizing that
And as
you're putting
always,
yourself on the line.
my hope is that if any athletes see this list, that they're motivated by it. If they're happy with their placement, that they're encouraged to try to achieve that placement. And if they're not, that they say, forget this guy, I'm going to show the world otherwise.
And if you don't like your placement where Brian put you, feel free right after one of your sweatiest events just to go up and give him a big hug. There's probably nothing grosser and more uncomfortable for when one of you sweaty athletes hugs us. But I mean, it's cool. It's kind of like a trade-off. You get the spotlight on you for a second, but it's also kind of nasty. Yeah,
I'll
Hobart,
take
you don't
a
get
sweaty
nothing-
hug. I'll take
yeah,
a sweaty hug
because you are probably sweating right now.
profusely.
Hobart doesn't know where his sweat starts and someone else's sweat ends.
I just want you to know I only have a T-shirt on.
That's how they do it at CNN too. Don't worry.
Let's do this.
Okay, Brian, shall we start at number 38 for the men?
I don't know if we need to go one by one through all 38, but maybe we show like the bottom 8,
Okay.
if we can do, or
Or
something
why don't we just
similar
move
to
up
that.
them? Why don't we just move up them quickly? Because he took the time to make slides for everyone.
Sure. Yeah, that's fine too.
Okay. Uh-oh. I see it coming out on the YouTube station live. He's sizing it. It's fun. It's going to be fun watching Brian's beard grow throughout the week. It's already like 2 days ago. He looked like he was 18. He already looks like he's 28. Men, please. Thank you. Ryan knew that. He just wants to get his voice on the podcast. Hobart, what are you wearing? What's your shirt?
This is one of the shirts from Ham Plan.
What is Ham Plant?
Ham Plan was our online programming platform.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. That's the one.
Is it no longer exist?
Well, we're transitioning to CAP, CrossFit Affiliate Programming, but
I don't think
So
we're
it's a
allowed to talk
relic.
about. We're
It
not
might-
allowed to talk about that, Brian. Not yet.
well,
It's a collector's item. I got to get one of those.
We have a lot of them, Brian. So if you want one, let me know. I'll get you a lot of them.
That'd be cool. I like having stuff that's you can't get anymore.
Okay, done deal, man.
Okay, number 38. Let's see it, Ryan. How can we peer pressure Matt to do a podcast during the games? Let's hurt some feelings. Phase. I don't know what phase means. There he is, number 38. Make them big. You can hide our faces too if you want.
Oh man, I feel like I should be on the YouTube link, but okay. He's up there?
Yeah, I can help you out with that. I'm going to make mine full screen. Bam. Alexander Ilin, number 38. This is the guy that's in question whether he's even going to make it. Here
Devastating.
To the event, right?
He's the one Russian guy that's supposed to be making the trip. He's the second oldest guy competing in the field, I believe. It's very close between him and Jason Smith, maybe birthday. And yeah, he's been incredible the last year or so in online competitions, but I've yet to see him compete against a field of this caliber in live competition. So he's down here at the bottom, near the bottom, well, at the bottom of the list.
No gray hair.
More than I can say.
No gray hair. Okay, number 37.
Will you tell me when they're up on the screen?
Yeah, I'll try to say their names. Guillerme Malheiros.
Yeah, he commonly goes by Guy. He's one of the youngest guys in the field, if not the youngest, and he qualified from Brazil in South America. He's also one of the strongest guys in the field.
Yeah.
I think he's got a clean and jerk close to 375 plus and a snatch of 315 plus. He's competed as a teenager at the games. He's talented for sure. He won the RX division at Wadapalooza the last time it existed. So there's nothing bad about him here. The one thing that I'm curious about, we've recently found out that there are going to be cuts, and we know we don't know all the events yet, but he's a guy who could really benefit from having a heavy lifting event early in the competition, and so far we haven't seen that. And if he has a heavy lifting come up before potential cuts, that could change his ranking. Otherwise, he's going to need some barbells that he can move, and heavier the better early to have a chance to make it through the cuts.
And I'll nominate him for top 5 best bodies at the CrossFit Games. Okay, number 36.
Is it up there, Augustin Riquelme?
Oh, good. No, Ryan's slipping. Oh, I think it's because there's
He's
a
the other-
delay. We got a couple second delay. Okay, Augustin Riquelme.
He's the other guy who qualified from South America, Argentinian. Generally small in stature, pretty good on gymnastics type workouts. Don't necessarily have anything bad to say about him. Just I feel that he did compete in 2019 at the games also. I think he was cut around 50th, right around there. And, just yet to prove to me that he can compete against this caliber of field. Obviously, winning South America is great, but I need to see what these South American athletes can do in this format in order to put them any higher than this.
Are you going to have anything bad to say about any of the athletes?
No.
Okay.
I just have better things to say about some.
Number 30. Thank you, James. Number 35, Sam Stewart. Oh, that's the guy we want to try to get on the podcast.
I hope we can get him on the podcast. He's from Ireland. Great guy. Again, a little bit smaller athlete, probably one of the lighter guys in the field, qualified obviously through Europe in the online format. Again, a lot of these guys that are in the bottom are just unproven. At the games level, they're unproven. And there's a lot to be said for having experience here, for the volume of the competition, for the intensity and caliber of the field. So, like I said, someone's got to finish down here. And these are, in general, you might see an outlier in terms of rookies doing better than this, but usually in your first year or two, it's pretty tough to get into the top half of the field.
Brian, Steven Cesar just said individual event number 12 was just announced, and it's a 1 rep max snatch, and that's event 12.
Yeah, so that's right. And so that's bad news for Guy Medeiros and for the other strong guys in the field that are looking for these events, because that is after the cuts. And that means that if you don't make it through, similar to 2019, you won't get that opportunity to show off your top end strength. You kind of have to earn it. And we've had conversations in the past about whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm assuming that there's going to be some tests prior to the cuts that will allow athletes to flex their strength. But if that's the 1 rep max test for the weekend and it's after the fact, then a guy like Guy Medeiros won't get that opportunity for the event, potentially event win or top finish, and the really, really sought after and coveted points that come along with that.
Okay, understood. Number 34, Dylan Vowell.
That's not it.
Oh, that's not number 34? Let's see who number 34 is. Maybe my notes are all screwed up. Oh, yeah, sorry. Georgis.
Let's call him George or Georgios probably.
Karavis. He's Greek.
He's Greek. One of the athletes coached by Facundo. He's looking to basically reestablish the fact that Greece has some top end athletes that aren't going to get popped for steroids, because the last 2 big time athletes to get through, one woman and one man, both are on suspensions right now for steroid abuse. Georgios is very good. He was 5th at Strength and Depth the year that Matt Fraser won it. He competes at Dubai sometimes and has done okay there in pretty competitive fields. Younger guy, needs to prove himself on this stage for me to get any higher than this.
Two quick things. I think it's horrible that Brian's shitting on the whole entire country of Greece by suggesting that the other two athletes were on steroids, making possible implications that George is. I think that's not right. And number two, we don't know that they abuse steroids. We just know that they took them. Okay, go on. Number 30.
Fair enough. And I wrote an article about Karavis leading into the competition, or he was a part of an article I wrote, and he talks about how important it is to him to play fair and to reestablish the fact that not all athletes in Greece do that. So I'm trying
wow,
to.
this is a great name. Thank you, Brian. Number 33, Uldis Upenix. God, I hope he does well. That's a great name. It needs to be said a lot.
If I'm not mistaken, Uldis Upenix is the 5-time reigning national champion from Latvia. He competed at the games in 2019, and I think he got cut in the round of 30, along with people like Samuel Cornway and Jeffrey Adler. He's a very good, one of the smaller guys, maybe the second smallest in the field, shortest at least after Colton Mertens. And, so you see, now we've had 3 straight guys from Europe on this list here at the bottom, and bottom 8 still. And I just think that the men in Europe are, they're not at the same caliber of the women in Europe. They came through the online qualification. Uldis is a guy who's been top 10 in the Open before, exceptional in that online format. He qualified as a national champion. That's how he has his previous games experience. And you're seeing a theme here with the guys at the bottom. It's, you got to show me what you can do in these competitions. And because of the nature of the last couple of years, we haven't had these guys come through regionals and go 16th, 12th, and finally make it through, or 10th, 7th, and finally get in. So a lot of these people are new in this format. They've got 9 tests to prove themselves, but for me, Uldis is still down here needing to show me what he can do.
And although that's a pretty small representation of him in that picture, I will rank him in the top 5 best bodies also.
You're going to run out of spots pretty quick.
Maybe. Number 32.
So this is a bit of a departure from the last couple of guys in terms of experience. Is he up there yet?
Yeah, Jason Smith. What an amazing physique. My God.
I do think he's the oldest guy in the field. Incredibly experienced athlete. I was really blown away with what he did at Dubai the last time he competed there. Finished in the top 10 against a very good field where a lot of these guys were in it. He's 37 now. I think that he's basically dominated the African regional once again. No one has been able to catch up to him there, even as he's getting older. But I do think that there's especially in the guys side, we haven't seen anyone of this age do well at the games yet. So I think, maybe he'll prove otherwise, but I'm expecting him to be, no disrespect to him, but towards the bottom.
Look at that muscle on his forearm touching his bicep in that picture. Do you have that muscle, Hobart?
No.
Oh, nice bicep, though.
Thanks, man.
You're welcome. Okay, number 31.
I think this is going to make you sad.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Someone has to... Oh, buddy. Royce Dunn, superstar of the Sevan podcast, trains with the great Rich Froning at the Mayhem Empire, and Brian makes his first stumble.
Could be. We'll see. But Royce obviously is an incredible guy, an incredibly gifted athlete. Hasn't in the years he's been, the 1 year he's at the games before, he didn't do as well as I thought he would do, and so I've got him down here pretty similar to where he finished that year. And I hope the best for Royce. I love him. He's so fun to watch. He's very good at a lot of things, but we're gonna see pretty quickly how good this field's about to get.
This would be a good time in the YouTube chat to someone just write "eat a dick, Brian" or something. I mean, just let it fly. Number 30.
I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it.
Number 30. Wait a second. I want to say one more thing about Royce Dunn. Number 30 is good. Let's hold him there for a second. Hobart.
Lay it on me.
What do you think, Royce Dunn coming out of the Mayhem Empire, getting placed at 31?
What was his last games finished, Brian?
29th, 2017, 18.
How old is he?
Oh, sorry, 34th. And the only year he competed as individual is 34th in 2018. He is 30 years old.
I don't know. I mean, he obviously has an edge working out there down at Mayhem with Rich, but I don't know. What did Sean Woodland say? And I don't mean this as a knock, because I was never a great individual games athlete. Didn't Sean Woodland once say you don't know how good you have to be to suck at the CrossFit Games, right? So it's like, and I'm not saying anyone who finishes not in the top 10 sucks. What I'm saying is, like, I think the margin of error between that field, I'm sitting on the fence basically. The margin of error in that field is so small. Like the gap, the little differences between 30th and 20th are really tight. So, I don't think Brian's handing out a bad deck there. But hey, with Rich's experience, I could see him getting close to top 20. And top 20, I think, is very, very hard to be in. So.
Number 30, Henrik. And then his last name has 4 A's in it. I'm pretty sure that breaks some sort of rule for names.
Hepalainen we're going to go with.
Okay. We lost it. There he
Rookie
is.
at the games. He's from Finland. And, we've got obviously Yanukovsky, another Finnish guy in the field. Everyone probably knows Mikko Salo. So there's some great Finnish athletes historically. And Henrik's first year here. So I don't know too much about him. He's probably the guy I know the least about. I'm out in the field. But, this is going to be my least scientific, probably, proclamation of any guy. But I just have a feeling that he's pretty well-rounded, but not going to have any, like, outstanding performances. And so he won't maybe be bottom 5 in a lot of events, but he's just going to be like at 25 to 30 over and over again. And that doesn't get you very, very high in the games with the way the scoring system is.
Does he train with Koski or Mikko?
I don't think so. He's been training with Laura Horvath and Ben Smith for the last week or two out at Krypton.
Okay, then switch him with Royce Dunn if he's not training with Mikko or Koski.
The first event's a swim event too, and Australians typically perform very well in them. So, I mean, that could help with the cuts, man.
Well, so does Finland. Finland is an exceptionally good swimming nation. This is going to be the worst year that Australians ever have had at the CrossFit Games, with the exception of Tia and Cara. The young Ellie Turner and Laura Clifton, who's from New Zealand, but she's from Oceania, are not great swimmers relative to the other women who usually make it from that region. And the guys, Jay Crouch, Baden Brown, and Royce Dunn, are much worse swimmers than guys like Matt McLeod, James Newberry, and Con Porter. So look for the Australians not to dominate the swim event the way they have in the past.
And number 29, if you don't think Brian has a bias, this guy is Brian's favorite CrossFit Games athlete, the great Gamboa.
Yeah, he's had an awesome career, man.
Roy Gamboa, super awesome guy. I like him a lot. From North Texas there, and similar to Jason Smith, he's up there in age. He's got a lot of experience, but if you look at his finishes historically at the games, they're okay, but they're not anything stellar. He's got last time he competed was last year, and he was third to last in the online version, and then the 2 previous times he was 23rd and 35th. So I'm kind of like splitting the difference here and saying I don't necessarily think he's gotten any worse. I just think bottom 15 in this field is about where he's going to fall.
And he's had an event win at the CrossFit Games before, right?
He won the sprint event that Matt Fraser famously had the call of what can't this guy do as he's passing the rest of the field, because Roy Gamboa was in the previous heat, and he actually beat Fraser by a couple tenths of a second.
Wow.
When you start to see that trend of really good open performance, not great games performance, you have guys that can win events, but they just lack that like consistency across. But he's had a long career at the games.
And
Sevan, is that a problem that Ryan just left?
I see. Can someone make a comments in the chat to see if we're still live? I think we're still live. I see the red record button lit up.
Yeah, but is the slideshow updating?
He's doing something on the screen. I see something. I can see his mouse like moving around on the screen, so we're good. Matt Souza, you're live. Interceptor 11. Number 28. Or 27, or just anything that we haven't seen yet.
Oh. Sevan's going to...
28 up.
Oh. Come on,
He beat your boy Royce Dunn.
Come on, buddy. Colton Mertens.
Okay. So I had Colton Mertens as high as 18th in my rankings.
No
Okay.
way.
And when I found out as events started to be released, and as I found out about the cuts, I just kept having to drop him down. And this is the reason why. He's a guy who can definitely win events at the games. I feel like there are certain events that if they come out, he could beat every single guy on this list in those events. We've seen the exact opposite of that in terms of events so far. He's not going to be good on the swim. He's not going to be good on the sprint. He's not going to be good on the long run relative to the fields. He's not going to be good on the pig. He's not going to be good on the rope climbs and skierg. And he probably won't even get to the heavy snatch where he also wouldn't be good. There's got to be some events that would be good for him, but they haven't shown up yet, and they're just running out of events that we don't know about before the cuts. So what I'm kind of worried about is that his best events are going to be towards the end of the weekend, and he won't even get a chance to participate in them.
Let
And
me
you're
ask
still
this.
putting him at a 28th? And you just bash Royce Dunn down to the bottom of the list? Just saying.
I think
Just-
in general,
just my
Colton
thoughts.
Mertens is fitter than Royce Dunn.
Boom. That's what I wanted
But-
to hear, people.
So let me ask you this, Brian, if this makes sense. I don't know. I don't even know how to think about this really logically, but you're saying though that this guy will make it to day 3 of the competition because he's number
Who?
28, Colton
No.
Mertens.
Oh, he'll make it to the. If he was actually 28th, he would make it to event 10, which is the first day of the third event, the first event of the third day of competition.
Okay. And then let me ask you this, because maybe this is a question for Dave. Since we were told that it would go 40, 40, 30, 20, right?
Mm-hmm.
The cuts. So that means the first day, since there's only 38 people, or after the second day, only 8 people will be cut. Whereas if everyone showed up, it would have
Correct.
been 10.
Correct.
Okay. Colton, I apologize. Number 27.
He's going to outperform everybody's expectations on the pig. I'm calling that right now.
He's not going to end up like Taylor Self, get folded in half underneath it.
Exactly.
Good. Number 27, Brandon Luckett. I don't think he's going to make it this far.
Yep. I mean, we'll see with the elbow, but
Yeah, the
I
elbow.
don't see anything. I don't see anything that's been announced yet that I think is going to really crush the elbow.
Okay.
So I think he'll be all right, and I just think fitness-wise, this is where he falls.
I think the swimming and the paddle is going to, whatever the paddle event is going to really, really aggravate that elbow.
He was pretty upset about the cuts,
Okay.
too.
Yeah, he was pretty vocal.
He was.
Number 26.
Oh, we got him up there?
Yeah, Andre Houdet.
I think it's Houdet, Andre Houdet,
You say it like you
from
want.
Denmark. He's kind of in line to take over as probably the fittest guy in Denmark now that Frederik Gidius is, I think, moving on to some other things in his life. What, James?
Nothing.
Oh,
I'm
I
listening.
thought you were-
I'm taking it. I'm taking it in.
Andre Houdet is an extremely cerebral athlete. He's very, very well prepared. I think that the fast-paced unknown, where you have to go really outside your comfort zone at the games in terms of food prep and warm-up time and all these other things is going to be something that he has to have a learning curve for. I think he has potential to do a lot better than this at the games in future years, but I think in his rookie year, finishing in the mid-20s is a good spot for Andre.
But without what other live experience have you seen with him, though? Because he's 27 coming in at this, and you're ranking him, I think, pretty high at the games.
How many different countries are represented at the games this year? Sorry, Brian, were you going to answer a question? Sorry.
Let him
Yeah,
answer. I'll count.
total.
Okay.
Well, total countries for the entire competition is currently at 41. To answer James' question, the sanctionals he competed at were Filthy 150, Strength and Depth, and Fittest in Cape Town. At Strength and Depth, he was 6th place. Fittest in Cape Town, he was 6th, but it was a small field, and he was 10th at Filthy 150. There were a lot of games athletes in all those fields, so he's got potential to do well in live competition. I really think that he's going to. I think he'll learn a lot this year, and if he's able to qualify again in the next year or two, I think he can he can be pretty, maybe 10 places higher on this list.
Number 25.
This is one of the most intriguing guys in the field. He's another one that I don't know too much about. He's young. It's Luka Jukic from Serbia. Him and his brother are both competing here, and we'll get to Lazar later on. But I think he's pretty young, and he's got does not have a ton of competition experience. Honestly, I was very surprised that he did as well as he did in the online format. I mean, obviously going against your brother and getting to train there is great, but he only did one sanctional. It was Norway, which was not a super stacked field. There were some good athletes there, but he was 16th. And, if you look relative to a lot of other guys in the field, like he barely snuck into the quarterfinals, 52nd out of 60 qualifiers in Europe. He did finish third in the semi, but really don't know a ton about him. I talked to Lazar for a little bit, and it basically just sounds to me like he's the less developed and less experienced version of his brother. And, the fact that he's making it at this age is awesome. I think that he will be, I think he's good enough to compete at the games, but if he finishes 25th, I think I would consider that a good performance for him this year.
How old is he?
22.
22 or 3.
Damn. Okay.
And another one of your boys coming up next, Sevan.
I saw him. I accidentally saw him. What did we do? We just to pick people to be on the Sevan podcast. We just picked people who are going to be in the bottom 40. Zach Watts.
No.
Zach
We've had a lot of guys on the show, so Zach Watts. So similar to Guy Medeiros here. This is a guy who has similar lifting numbers to him. Top end, upper echelon, could be top 3 if not winning that snatch event if you were able to get to it. He snatched 310 at the Mid-Atlantic, and he said he had more in the tank. He probably is not going to get to that event. And that's kind of, I think, is a loss. This is one of the things that's I would prefer, and I haven't seen the total programming, and so I have to say that until I see the total programming, I don't like making comments like this, but people love seeing heavy lifts, and when you have the heaviest lift coming after the cuts, sometimes by nature you just miss out on seeing the best lifters in the field, and if Zach and Guy don't get to participate in that snatch, then we probably won't see a 315 snatch, and I know that every fan of the sport would love to see that. So I would consider that a bit of a loss if those guys don't make it there. But it's going to be tough to make it there. It's a really good field. You'll see pretty much from this point on, these guys are very, very good. So I'm actually feel like I'm ranking Zach pretty highly here. I think a lot of the workouts that have come out will favor a little bit of bigger, stronger athletes so far early in the weekend. Maybe not the swim, but the pig event, the Husafel event, maybe not the run, maybe not the handstand walk. And so you start to see he's probably going to have this kind of up and down start weekend. And I don't think it's going to be enough to get him to the snatch, which is, I know if that happens, I know he'll be really bummed about it.
I'd like to see Zach's confidence skyrocket. The little bit of interaction we had with him, I don't think he knows how good he is. He wants
Maybe
it,
we find out he's a killer swimmer or something.
He wants it. Man, he wants it. Okay, number 23. Or not.
23 should be Baden Brown. Is that
He's
right?
There. Yep.
Baden Brown, so phenomenal athlete, really, out of Australia. He competed in both of the Australian CrossFit Championship sanctionals. He was second the first year, second and third at those two competitions. He did compete at Dubai one year. He was 20th, which is not that great. He got off to a pretty bad start at the semifinals, but he's very consistent. Long endurance events are probably not his forte, but pretty much everything else he's good. And so I think he can, be flirting with middle of the pack in this field. He has been to the games twice before, but they were each of the last 2 years. And he's one of those guys that I was really excited to see in 2019, and he didn't make it out of the first cut event. So we didn't get to see anything from him at all, and he basically got no games experience from that. Last year, he was 11th in the online version. That's pretty good too, but again, no actual experience in live competition at the games, despite this being his third year. So for all practical purposes, or realistic purposes maybe, it's kind of like his rookie season in this games competition. So if middle of the pack, I think it would be a good finish for him this year. He's 26 years old, so he could definitely have some years ahead of him. He's a good guy. He's well rounded, but I don't see the home runs. I see a couple bad events for him early on, so I think this would be a about appropriate spot for him.
Brian, so you're saying this guy got 11th in the games last year, and this year you're ranking him at 23?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't think that there were only 30 guys in the field last year. They weren't the 30 fittest guys on earth because the season got cut short, and a lot of the guys who'd been, a lot of them qualified through the Open is how it ended up happening. And I know that people who do well in the Open can also do well at the games, but there's also people who do well at the Open that don't ever make it to the games in the old format. And it wasn't, I would say it was a weak games field relative to most years, definitely relative to this year, in my opinion. And it was also only, online event, 7 events, 3 of them were monostructural events. They're kind of strange things, and the handstand hold in the row, and really short events. And I told you he's not that good at long events. So the fact that like 5 of the workouts were less than 7 minutes last year is beneficial for him.
Ouch. Okay. Number 22, Sean Sweeney.
That's not an ouch. That's just a fact.
Okay, fact.
Sean
Facts
Sweeney.
can hurt. Yep.
So, like I said, we're really getting in now. We're getting into this realm right here where we're looking at the cut line, and Sean Sweeney and some of the next couple guys you're going to see, I view as they're going to be the guys right there. Sean should get off to a pretty good start to the weekend. I think he's going to do great in the water, possibly even top 5 finish. I think he'll be able to flip the pig. I think he'll be able to pull the sled. I think he'll be average on the run and the handstand. But from the events we know so far, I think he'll be inside the top 20 at some point early in the competition. He has been to the games a couple times before. In 2019, he was 24th, so he almost, he made it pretty far in the cuts. But in 2018, he was 22nd, and that's kind of the one I'm looking at. So he has that experience, and it's right in this realm being here. I think that the games field this year in terms of depth and caliber is similar, but he has a little bit more experience than some of these guys. So I put him kind of at the back end of the more experienced athletes, but definitely with the opportunity to make the cut. And I think that actually just he's very good with the fans and the crowd, and I think it would be awesome if he makes it through the cuts. So he's right there flirting with it on my rankings.
What's the highest he's ever finished in the CrossFit Games?
22nd, 24th, and 30th are his 3 previous finishes at the games.
Wow. Okay. Number 21, Tim Paulson.
Oh, that's good.
That is good.
Were you going to ask something about Sean?
I just want to know if he's going to wear his cowboy hat during the swim.
Yes.
He'll probably wear it to the starting line. Tim Paulson, so making his 5th games appearance. He was 14th online last year. Like Baden Brown, he missed the cut in first cut the year before that, and his previous finishes were 29th and 19th. So those are the 2 years, 2017 and 2018, that I'm kind of looking at. He's 31 years old, but there's a lot of older guys in the field, and I don't think that that's too old to be detrimental to him. He says he's healthier than he's ever been coming into this games. I think he's a guy who, like, experience goes a long way for him. So when he's done it a couple times, he's going to be ready. He'll know how to manage his body in his week. He does have a young kid, but his whole family will come here and be supportive of him in that realm. So I think he will have every opportunity to make it. I have him just here one spot out of that kind of cut position, but expect him to be very close to 20th come Friday night, Saturday morning.
He blew that rope climb event in 2019 too, and I think he's got an axe to grind, man. So I'm a big Tim Paulson fan. I hope I think he can squeeze up there.
Is he the biggest guy competing this week?
I think he's listed as the second or third heaviest. Yeah, maybe third heaviest.
Who's bigger than him?
Fikowski and Hopper, maybe.
Yeah, Fikowski and Hopper. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, Tim has incredible presence. I'm always impressed when he makes it this far because he is enormous.
Well, he performs on gymnastics movements much better than you'd think. When you look, you're like, this guy's going to get upside down and just do one handstand push-up. But
he has short arms. That's why his Instagram is T-Rex Paulson. His wingspan is less than his height. So the gymnastic stuff for a guy that big is generally favorable for him.
Oh,
I love that you know that.
Yeah, that's a trip. He looks more Paul Bunyan than CrossFit athlete.
Yeah, man, he's a Viking killer.
And it's going to be good contrast compared to, the next guy.
Number 20, Jay Crouch. We just did an interview with him that I think that went up this morning.
I would say this is a bit of a risky pick for me to put him ahead of guys like Tim and Sean. Doesn't have the experience. He's kind of said some of these workouts aren't amazing for him, but I think he's I think he's like Zach Watts, better than he knows. You know, when we talked to him and he said none of these workouts at Torian Pro were really good for me, and then he still was only 1 point away from winning the competition. And I mean, look, there's good guys in Australia that didn't make this competition, like James Newbury and Con Porter, and Luke Fiso and a couple other guys. So I think Jay is gonna surprise some people this week. I think he's gonna have a lot of performances in the 10 to 20 range, and if he's able to do that consistently through the first couple of days of competition, he'll make it to the last couple of days, and I think would be a big win for him.
Jay Crouch is also poster boy material for CrossFit, squeaky clean.
He's got a hell of he's got a crazy cut up haircut.
You want to watch me stumble through an interview? There's nothing to talk about with this guy except like just dandelions and puppy dogs.
Jay Crouch.
The other thing is his girlfriend is coaching him this week. It's Maddie Sturt, and she's been to the game several times. So he's got a little bit of his coach is Rob Forte. He'll be checking in with him, so he's got a lot of experience in his corner to help guide him through.
And he's a really successful team athlete too, and I think they have better headspace coming over to individual. Like Vellner's a good example of that.
What, Vellner was
That's
a
good
team
comparison.
athlete?
Yeah.
He was.
Oh shit, I didn't know that. I feel like that. What do you explain that, Hobart? I feel like that's just some sort of bias to validate your twilight years on the team.
It's 1,000% bias, but I will say my competitive mental headspace got way better after team because you got to learn how to deal with other people's shit, not just your own, and that really makes you check your own. I think it really helps your own personal headspace way more.
Number 19.
If you're a good team athlete.
You're good
Sevan
team
didn't like that.
No, I did like that. And you were a good team athlete. I just have to keep moving forward. When you guys say stuff, I actually hear you and listen. I just pretend to not acknowledge you.
Fair.
Number 19, Will Morad. God, he got huge over the last 10 years, huh?
Will Morad is one of the I believe he's one of the fittest guys on earth, and he's just never 100% healthy. He's been to the games twice before. In 2014, his rookie year, the incredibly difficult Central East Regional, he made it out of there, and he ended up taking 14th at the games, which was a great finish that year. He didn't make it back until 2019, and he made it into the top 10. So he made it through all the cuts. Now, and the problem was then he got injured, and so he was basically limping on one hamstring through all the way to the finish. So he didn't get to see. I think he would have actually done a few, like maybe fifth, sixth that year if he'd been healthy. And obviously would be a great finish to have. But I wasn't sure if he was healthy coming into semifinals, and he was healthy enough to make it through. I know he's had some back problems this year. So even here at 18th, this would be his lowest ever games finish in 3 appearances, and obviously it'd still be a good finish. But he's an interesting guy. I'd have to withdraw from the competition, but he could also push for top 10. So I think he's got possibly the biggest range of finishes of anyone in the field.
That's super. That's exciting.
Say that again, Hobart. Sorry.
Oh, it's just exciting. But I do think too, like being healthy is part of your fitness. So.
That 2014, the year he made it out of the Central East Regional, there's a behind the scenes on that too, which he played I think a pretty big role in. I think Rich was there also, right?
Was that the only 3 year?
Not sure. But he was a very impressive athlete, not just as a CrossFitter, but he was an incredible mover. Number 18.
Wait, what? Okay. Or is it? Oh, 18. Yeah. Sorry.
You did say Will Morad 18, but we didn't correct you. We just let you just roll with that.
My bad.
Number 18. Alexander Caron. I know you like to say his name. Sorry, Brian. Go ahead.
Alexander Caron. The N is silent. They're kind of silent in French. But so there are 6 Canadian men in the field, and this is the first one to pop up on my list. And I put up a post on Instagram maybe a week ago that said, which of the Canadian men do you think is going to do the best? Because this is a super strong contingency of Canadian guys. Alexander Caron was in 6th place in his rookie year in 2018 when he had to withdraw due to an injury from slipping on a wet platform during the CrossFit Total. So he didn't get to see his potential that year. 2019 didn't make it. 2020 he made it. and finished 16th in the online format. So he's one of these guys that's been there a couple times, but never really been there and had the chance to finish the whole thing. He has put himself out there and competed in some of the better competitions in the sanctional season. He was 16th in Dubai, 8th at Rogue, 5th in Brazil, and 6th at Mayhem. So he's got some competitive experience. He missed making it through the Atlas Games to the other 5 Canadian guys, which are still coming up on this list, but he was able to make it in second place in the last chance qualifier, and I think that he's poised for a top half finish. I think he's pretty good.
So you're saying this guy, how many events in was he in 2018 when he was in 6th place when he slipped on the platform?
They'd only at that point done the crit and the 30 muscle ups.
And what was his injury from slipping on the platform?
His knee, he blew out his knee. It's actually pretty gross to watch.
Holy cow. Number 17. Why was the platform wet? Was it sweat?
It was raining.
Were the games outside?
It's controversial if they should have been going out. Yeah, they were doing it outside. Some people thought maybe they were trying to dry the platforms and whatever, but they pushed forward with it, and he ended up being the.
He still finished with a 12:05 total in 2018. That's insane. That's a top 10. That's a top 10.
Yeah,
total
he's very strong.
Number 17, Andrew Mudslinger.
Nope, that's not it at all. Adrian Munviller. Adrian Munviller, he's similar to Will Morad in the sense that coming into the semifinals, I thought he had a knee injury, and I picked him not to make the games, which I would admit was a bit disrespectful given his pedigree. He's been to the games 3 times. He was 8th in 2019, making it through all the cuts. He was 16th in 2018. In his first year, his rookie year, was 34th. So he obviously learned from that, came back. He's 28 years old. He's in the prime of his career. And the people that I've spoken to that know him out there in Europe have said that my prediction of putting him outside the semifinal top 5 lit a fire under his ass, and that he is very determined and motivated to prove me wrong. So I got him here at 17th. I think he's going to believe, and rightfully so, that he can replicate a top 10 finish. But yeah, 17 is where I have him here, and we'll see. He was hoping to see a bike event, I'll tell you that. He's the best biker in the field, so if a biking comes up, it'd be good for him, especially if it's before the cuts.
They'll do biking. They can't resist, don't you think, Hobart? They'll do biking.
I don't know. I'd like to.
Well,
see
here's
biking.
Here's the thing. They've already announced 3 of the first 4 events on day 1, and I don't think that the nightcap event is going to be a biking event. On day 2, they're starting with event 5, which was the skier rope climb event in the Husaville bag, and then they've got 6 and 7. We don't know what they are before 8, and I just have to assume based on what Dave said that 9's going to be in the Coliseum and it's not going to be a bike event. But 10 is not going to be a bike event. So if he wants a bike event, he's probably going to have to make it to Sunday morning, is my guess.
Why can't it be event number 6 or 7?
Have they ever combined a bike event with something else, like a gymnastic movement or weightlifting movement?
Yeah, last year they had bike repeater at the ranch. It was 10 rounds of 400 and something meter bike with a 1 legless rope climb.
Yeah, the legless rope climb. Okay.
I don't know. I have a feeling that there's going to be no road biking at the games this year. That's my inclination.
They got to. They got to. They can't resist. Once they end, they're like, Dave, once he puts something in like that, I think we'll see it every year. That's my guess.
Adrian Munwile's a wild animal too, man. Watching him compete is so fun. I think I hope he does well.
What are you calling his last name? Munweiser? Like Budweiser?
It's
yeah.
It's Munviller.
Munviller. Sorry. Thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna rank him as the 3rd nicest body we've seen in these photos. Adrian Munviller. Okay, number 16, Alex Vigno.
Alexander Vigno. Been at the games 3 times. His first year he was 11th. The next year he was 9th. And then in 2019 he got cut in 25th, which is 1 or 2 spots away from Fikowski that year. He's a new dad. He's a police officer in Canada. He mostly trains on his own. He is, I think, very excited and fired up to be back at the games. He's 29 years old. You know, there's a lot of guys in the 28, 29, 30 age range, so he's competed against a lot of these guys a bunch of times. He did no sanctionals, so he's a little bit raw in terms of live competition. He hasn't had it in a while, but he's pretty solid across the board. No real holes for this guy, but very few things that he can also hit a home run on. So I think he can have a lot of top half finishes. including an overall finish in the top half. So I got him here. What did you say, 15th?
16. I also think that he's
16.
the first dark horse we've seen. I think this guy can really shake up the pack. I think that when he came on the CrossFit scene, people were thinking that he could be the next golden child. This guy is.
Hold on. I gotta put my helmet on before the next pick. Okay, I'm ready.
This guy is the real deal, Alex Vigno. Number 15, as Brian puts on his helmet. Oh, BKG.
No way.
I don't know. He said helmet. I just thought Viking. Number 15.
What?
Oh, that's why you got to put your helmet on. You're
Okay.
out of your fucking mind, Brian. Let me tell you something. He's gonna win. He's gonna win an event just based on his seniority. Travis Mayer, number 15. Would that be the lowest he's ever finished in the game? What's the lowest he's ever finished in the games?
29th in his rookie year.
Okay.
Then he was 10th, 12th, and 19th. So this ranking is about relative to his average finish. And what I'm saying here is I think that this games field is a little bit stronger, top heavy, than some of those other fields were. But Travis is he definitely has top 10 potential. As soon as the Mid-Atlantic finished, I said all four of those guys that finished in the top four there, which was Hopper, Panchik, Medeiros, and Mayer, have top 10 potential. And that was the first week of semifinals. Obviously, we needed to see the rest of it play out. If Travis finished in the top 10, I would not be surprised. He trains with Noah all the time. I think they go blow for blow on a lot of different workouts and events. This is now we're really getting into it. Like these next 15 guys are all at the top of the sport and believe that they can not just do well, but podium, top 5, or win at the games. So I got Travis here. He will be, if he sees this, he will be very motivated to improve upon this finish because he believes he's a top 10 in the world, if not better.
And punch you in the throat is what he's going to do. Number 14.
Is he up there?
Yes, Jeffrey Adler. Is this the first guy we've seen who went to the games last year?
Yeah, and there's only 3. There's only Medeiros, Olsen, and Adler. But Jeffrey Adler was 5th last year at the games. I actually had dinner with him last night. Incredible guy. Him and his coach, Carolyn, are great people. Very, very good ambassadors of the sport. They own an affiliate and run it and do a very good job. They uphold movement standards to the highest caliber. He's one of the only guys in the field that doesn't use Olympic lifters, and he still lifts more than almost anyone else. He's won the Open before. I think he won it this year, actually. Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he's I think that he was 2019, he was 33rd, and he's had some kind of up and down finishes in sanctionals over the years. 19th in Wadapalooza, 13th at Dubai, 3rd at Mayhem, 8th at Dubai in a really good field in 2019, 2020. I think that 5th place finish, no disrespect to Adler, he earned that last year in the format, but I think it was more indicative of the format than his fitness relative to the rest of the field. If he's able to do it again this year, then I got to eat my words on that. But until I see him do a 15 event competition and place in the top 10 at the games, I still don't consider him a top 10 guy in the world.
I'd like to interview him. We haven't interviewed him, right?
We have not, and he'd be great to talk to.
He and his coach, they own CrossFit Wonderland. She's amazing. He's awesome.
There's a cool story. They both started out as volunteers at the games in 2016, and 3 years later, he was on the competition floor and she was coaching him.
Yeah, and she's done translating for seminar staff, and super awesome crew.
What language?
French. They're up in Montreal, right? No. I think so.
Yes, French.
All right, number 13, the great Saxon Panchik.
Yeah, so Saxon Panchik, this will be his 4th time competing at the games, and he's only 25 years old. It's a pretty impressive resume. He was 19th in his rookie year, 9th in his second year. That was 2019. So he made the cuts, and he basically finished last because Will Morad finished the weekend in 10th with the injured hamstring, and he was 21st last year in the online version of the CrossFit Games. He didn't win a single event at Granite Games this year, but he did win the Granite Games, beating Chandler Smith, which was to me was a pretty impressive performance because I was expecting Chandler to win that competition. If Chandler Smith is a guy who thinks he can win the games, top 5 at the games, which a lot of people believe he can do, I wanted to see that dominance there from him, and instead it was Saxon that was running the show from beginning to end of the weekend. I don't know if he's a top 10 games athlete, but I think he can push for it. He's very consistent. He's very strong. He's good at gymnastics. And yeah, I mean, to me, this is a ranking that's reflective of the fact that I really respect him as an athlete in this field.
And maybe two of the greatest training partners to ever be, you know, maybe the best training trio in games history. At least deserves an honorable mention, being that he's training with Scott and
his brother.
And who's the other guy?
Spencer. What?
What's wrong with you?
Brian, when I stutter, you guys just throw something in there. Just throw a name in there. This is like ad libs.
I just wanted to watch you be uncomfortable for a second. That's what I was really trying to do.
Let's show that we work well together. You guys just like we can share each other's sentences. Like, you know, Brian, there was one thing I missed here. You said he'd been to 4 games, but the only placements I heard you mention were 19th, 9th, and 21st. What was it?
No, this will be his 4th.
Oh, this
will be his 4th.
Okay, my bad. All right, I'd love to see him do well. I'm interested in getting into him becoming a fan of Saxon's. I want to be a fan. Number 12, Lazar.
Wow.
Lazar Jukic is one of the most fascinating men at the field for me this year. He's 25 years old. It'll be his first time competing at the games. In 2019, he qualified as Serbia's national champion and turned down the opportunity to come because he felt like he wasn't ready. A lot of people think that a lot of national champions weren't ready that year, but they all showed up to compete anyway. He was the winner of the second place at German Throwdown, excuse me. But he, what really, really stands out to me in his resume is that in 2019 and 20 seasons, he was 11th and 5th respectively in Dubai. The year that he was 5th in Dubai, the podium was Fikowski, Vellner, Roman Krenikov, BKG, and then him. He's very good swimmer. He's very good aerobically. He's very good on high volume wall balls, rowing, marine muscle ups. He's won open workouts before. Gymnastics is not an issue for him. I don't know what an issue for him is, except for maybe like top end strength. But he's strong. Lazar I think is very good. I think he's poised to be in the conversation for Rookie of the Year this year, depending on a couple other placements on both the men's and women's side, really. And he's I mean, I could be way off on this one, but I think he's up there. I think he's up there.
You just got the phrase "pain cave hero" popped in my head. The way you described him, that this guy can go.
Yeah, he knows how to hurt. He knows how to fight, and he's tough. He's tough. I think that people will be. I'm happy he's in the field. He's the type of athlete that we need in the field, and I'm like I said, I'm really excited to watch him compete this week.
Outside of Colton Mertens, I think the most confident person we've had on the podcast is number 11, Samuel Konoye. Samuel.
And man, I was really trying to find a spot for him in the top 10. I won't be surprised if he finds his way into the top 10, but I need to see him back that up. He was 3rd place at the Atlas Games. He was online. He was trying to compete live. I think he's better live. He was 7th worldwide in the Open. Obviously, that's incredible. He was 8th at Wadapalooza 1 year he competed there, and then he talked about it, how he was 22nd at Mayhem. It was honestly a pretty poor performance relative to what he expects of himself and what I would expect from him this year. I think he's matured a lot as an athlete in the last couple of years, changed his training a little bit, increased the volume, which sounds like it's a good thing for him. So I think he can make a push for the top 10. I'm just having to put him here in 11th. And
from talking to him, my words, not his, it seems like he has gleaned some of the Froning mojo, that he wears that Mayhem Empire training with pride, and that he'll have a lot to prove. What will be interesting with him and Jason Hopper will be how they react, how their confidence will be influenced by events that don't go well. And that is going to be very interesting for Samuel and Hopper. Number 10, here we go. Well, before we get to number 10, James, you had said basically that, like, in the beginning of this podcast that to make it to the games, you quoted the great Sean Woodland, the voice of CrossFit. You had said that what did you say? Something about you don't know how hard
You don't know
it
how
is
good you have
until-
to be to suck at the CrossFit Games.
Yeah, you
I
don't
think
know
that's
how,
what he said.
Yeah. So and then after that you followed up with like the top 20 is like really like I don't remember how you described it, but you were describing it as even more elite. Like this is a crazy group of dudes. So do you have anything you want to say about these top 10 guys?
Honestly, I just think it's the same thing. It's like they just don't falter. Like everybody's always like, well, the games throws weird stuff in there, and it's just like those top guys don't falter on the weird stuff. Brian's gone.
Oh,
But
show's over. Good. I got to take my second pee of the game of the show.
yeah, that was always, unless you had someone like, I mean, even with like, you look at Matt and that top 10, they're separated by like, when they get into those events, just small little differences. The margins of error are really small. And it's just like the big stuff doesn't trip them up. You know, people look at events like, oh, I haven't been training that. And, you know, they just, you know, maybe they get a 10th on the weird swim or the Husafelt stone or the toe to bar run, but it's like that stuff doesn't throw them out that much. It's just crazy how broad their fitness level is.
How's that, Dwayne? I just cleaned my glasses. Someone commented, my OCD really wants to clean Sevan's glasses. It sucks because I'm using my T-shirt too, and I'm scratching the shit out of them.
I like that shirt.
Thank you. And number 1, Brian, we did 9. We did 10 through 9, and number 1 is.
Yeah. Tell me who it is.
Number 10, Yanukovsky. Where did you go, Brian? Where did you go?
The internet's hotel just stopped working, so I.
Did you panic or were you cool about it? Were you just like, oh, it doesn't matter if it's live? Were you cool or did you panic?
I broke my external monitor. I stubbed my toe.
Number 10, Yanukovsky.
A lot of people think Yanukovsky can actually podium this year or finish top 5 and improve and have his best performance ever at the games. I am a huge fan of Yanukovsky. He's phenomenal. And I think pound for pound, size for size, one of the best CrossFit athletes in the modern era. I just have a suspicion he's not healthy, and that's kind of been his MO in the last couple of years. He's just always just not quite there. And like James said, like being the best means that you have to be able to perform at the best. And I've seen some pictures and videos that his girlfriend's posted recently, and he's all taped up, his shoulders all taped up, and it's just like, man, I want to see this guy at 100% without any injuries coming to the games, and I don't know that we're going to get that this year from him. I had him a little higher originally, but something just tells me that he's not at full capacity. And when you see the rest of the guys on this list, I mean, you gotta have it all weekend long if you want to beat these guys.
Didn't he pull out of the games once?
That was in 2016. I think he was. They'd gone to the ranch. They did the events there, and then the next day, they only had one event. It was ocean swim, 500-meter ocean swim, and he's the best swimmer in the field. So he did that workout, cashed $3,000, and then withdrew from the event. But this is his 7th time competing at the games. He's finished inside the top 10 3 different times. So, but the other 3 times he was 37th, 40th, and 32nd. So he's got the most up and down games resume that you can have, really.
And those even years, right?
Go ahead,
it's the even years that crush him. No. I was just trying to see if it was a pattern. Yeah.
Oh.
If this is going to be a good year or a bad year.
One of the most difficult things to see when you're down there close to these athletes is when they pull out of the game. So when the media is down there with athletes and someone pulls out, it is brutal. You're almost too close to something that is very, very painful because nobody wants to pull out. How do you win the $10,000 from Reebok for the swim event?
I think you got to get the Reebok flippers.
You wear shoes, man. You wear some Reeboks.
What are the rules on that? Can you wear shoes in the water, or you have to be barefoot?
It's probably I bet there's a rule that says you have to be barefoot.
Me too. So that event,
I hope that there's a finish line right afterwards, and that Yanukovsky just puts a pair of Reeboks outside the water. I don't even know, he might be sponsored by another, and he just gets out, slips them on, and runs across the finish line wearing them. That would be cool.
That would be brilliant. Or what if like you're another let's say you're a Noble or Whoop or whatever the other shoe companies are, and you just
Whoop's not a shoe company.
And you win. And you know you're ahead. Everyone should do that. Just carry a pair of Reeboks out there with them, and then at the last minute throw on the Reeboks if they're up enough. Number 9. This is getting good, Brian.
Yeah, this is where we're starting to get into it.
This is where people are going to hate you.
Yep, perfect.
I got your back.
Woo! That's a man. Chandler Smith. My God. Great photo, Ryan.
Chandler Smith, phenomenal athlete, obviously, ton of potential, 2 years games experience. Both were the last 2 years, so he barely misses the cut in 2019, finishes in 15th. We don't get to see him finish the weekend. 2020 online version misses by 1 spot and less than a handful of points. I think it was maybe 2 or 3 points of making it to the final 5. So he's got a 6th and a 15th on his resume, but he's never done more than 7 events in one game season. At the Granite Games, like I said, I was looking for him to win that and win it emphatically against what I considered to be the weakest semifinal field in North America. He did not. He took second to Saxon Panchik. But when he's competed at Rogue both years, and he's got a 4th and a 5th place finish at Rogue against. That's when Fraser was in the field. We know Fraser's not in the field, so that's a relative 3rd and 4th place finish. And guys, the really good guys show up to that competition. But I think that this year's games field is stronger than either of the Rogue fields that year. I think a top 10 finish would be expected for Chandler, and pretty much every spot up the ladder from 10th is a good accomplishment for him. If he finishes inside the top 5, like, I think he's got a narrow range of finishes, like 6 to 10. I think top 5 would be tough for him, but I think he's a pretty good bet for a top 10 finish.
What number game is this for him?
3rd in a row.
So after this year, could he make? I don't remember seeing him in your all-time best list.
Yeah. So after this year, maybe we'll consider it. I think we'll have to run that back at some point after this year, because I think a lot is riding on this year for a lot of guys.
Okay. So he wasn't on your list.
Correct.
Okay. Sorry, I'm texting and podcasting at the same time. Number 8, Cole Sager.
Yeah, and this is also his 8th year at the games. He's 30 years old. He's one of these guys that's 30 plus that has a chance to get on the podium this year. I do believe that Cole could have his best season at the games if everything goes right for him. Especially the notable thing to me is he's beaten Noah Olsen the last 2 times that they've lined up in competition against each other, which was this year at the West Coast Classic, and then the last time that we had Wadapalooza, where he actually tied Vellner on points and lost on a tiebreaker. And there's very, very few people who have ever beaten Vellner in a live competition outside of the 2019 games. So Cole has the potential to hang with the best in the world and beat some of the best in the world. Obviously, Noah was second one year, and he was in the top 5 last year. So when I say that we're getting into the thick of it here, and I talk about guys like Yanukovsky and Samuel Cornway and saying, like, if they want to have their best finish ever, these are the caliber of athletes that they're going to have to beat. Cole has very few weaknesses. He's incredibly mentally tough. He knows how to navigate the weekend of the games, having done it many times in the past. And he's the type of guy who usually gets better as the weekend goes on. So look for Cole to be inside the top 10. I've got him at 8.
Is this Chandler's training with Ben Bergeron now, right?
Yep. So they're on the same contingency, the same team, so to speak, this year.
Is this Chandler's first competition since he's been training with Bergeron?
Granite
Atlas Games. Granite Games, sorry.
And how did he do there?
Second.
Who took first?
Saxon Panchik.
Okay, God, you.
And then Brian.
You're talking
Brian
down
said
to
it
me
was
like I should memorize that shit.
I know. Sorry, you were just trying to create conversation. I'm just fired up. Brian did say that was the weakest qualifying event. It's just devastating.
Ouch.
You don't think Chandler Smith was just sort of like doing that thing where he's
This is
not
a good
peaking
point.
for it?
This is a good point, because Bergeron's athletes in general always prepare for the games and expect to make the games. So when talking about any of his athletes, you have to keep in mind that their relative fitness could be a lot better now than it was 6 weeks ago. He seems to be very good at prepping them for that.
There's some athletes, I don't want to use the word cursed, but I don't know what the word is. Cursed is way too strong. But I just don't think, as much as I would love to see Chandler do well and Koski do well, I just for some reason don't see it. I see them as.
So you think these are good places for him, or do you think I have him too high?
Yeah, no. I think, to be honest with you, I think everything you've done so far is amazing. From my limited knowledge, locked up in the 3 Plain Brothers empire, palatial estate. Okay, number 7, Justin Medeiros, the young lad.
Yeah, so
Who
Justin Medeiros
skyrocketed our
is
podcast ratings. Justin, thank you. Give you a big kiss
Justin
when I see
Medeiros,
you.
obviously phenomenal guy. He's also technically the defending champion. Fraser's out and Quant is out, so he's the highest finishing place ranking man from last year's games. This is only his second time competing at the games, and if you look at his resume of live competition, he goes back to regionals. As a young teenager, he placed in the teens in California Regional 2 times. He went to Wadapalooza. He was 17th. He went to Granite Games. He was 4th. He was in line to win that competition, but he didn't really know how to maneuver a sandbag well, just lack of experience. He shows up at Filthy 150 to kick off the sanctionals, and he wins it. And he beats some great athletes there, and Roman Krennikov and Sean Sweeney and Tim Paulson and Will Morad. And suddenly, and Tommy Marquez had Medeiros pegged as one to watch for 2 years prior to that, and obviously with good reason.
What's the light on for? What's going on?
We're at number 7 with Brian and Hobart.
Hey, I just called to tell you next time, don't fucking do that again. Next time you do a podcast with me, stay focused, man.
Don't answer.
Don't ask me about friends. Don't ask me about fucking family. Don't ask me about anything but the games. Stay focused, all right?
So you're blaming me for why our podcast went shitty earlier today?
You got one chance. You get one more chance. I'm going to give you one podcast tomorrow, and if you fuck it up, you're not going to get any more during the games. I'll give them to the fucking Buttery Bros.
Oh, wow.
All right, are we clear?
Oh, God.
The Buttery Castro. You know what I like about Dave is he's really big on second chances.
Yeah, that's good. No, he normally isn't big on second chance. I think he shit the bed on the podcast today. I think he was mean to me, and he feels bad. And instead of taking responsibility for it, he's blaming me.
I like that.
Okay, sorry, Brian. Number 7, Medeiros. Oh, what's interesting here is that there could be a contradiction we're hearing. He's the number 1 contender. You're saying he's the best dude in the field, in one side, one way you're saying because of his placement last year, but then you have him placed at number 7.
That's right.
So in a way, you're either saying that the other guys got so much better, or he got worse, or that you're fanboying and there's guys you like better than him. No, none of that.
I can appreciate all of those sentiments and attempts to bring me down, but no, it's none of those things. I think he's improved, and I think all the guys ahead of him have improved. And I think that, he's going to do well this week. I just don't think he's going to beat any of these next 6 guys.
Some guy wrote, Paul, I heard you, by the way. Some guy named Paul Fendler, you didn't answer the question, said, fuck Dave Castro. And so then I can right click like shit to do to him. I can make him a moderator, or I can hide this user, or I can even put him on a timeout.
Put him on a timeout.
I could remove him. I could report. It's so funny.
Just time out him a little bit.
It's good.
James, do you think I've missed the boat with Medeiros here? Do you think he's better than this?
No, I'm just getting a vibe on how I feel like you discount last year's performance by somewhere around like 30 to 40%. Like if you competed last year and where you finished, you get like a 30% discount on last year's finish.
That's a fair thing to say, and honestly, it might even be more than that. The 30% could just come from the fact that the field was 30 instead of 40, and there's a quarter of the field missing. It could come from the fact that 10 guys who would usually be at the games hadn't had a chance to qualify for the games yet because COVID canceled the season. It could come from the fact that it was an online competition. We've never had an online competition at the games before, and there were only 7 events, and it's been 11 years since we've had a games with that few number of events to prove yourselves. Obviously, in some of those years there were cuts, but all of those things can combine to say that I'm not taking away from the guys who placed that. They earned that spot last year given the circumstances. They had the same circumstances as everyone else once making the games, and they outperformed them. I want to see what those guys, Medeiros and Adler, can do this year against a full field and a more robust test.
No, I think that's fair for Medeiros.
You do?
And I do. I think he's super well rounded, and I don't think he's going anywhere in the sport. And it's like if he finishes 7th this year, next year he finishes 5th. Like I don't think it's like, I think there are some athletes where you're just who have been competing a while, they're gonna do well, but they're just, if they kept competing, they're gonna be 19th or 20th for a very long time. But I think he's one of those guys where I really think he's only gonna get better.
Let me share you a quick stat about him. So he was 73rd worldwide in the Open this year. He had 1,440 points. On 21.4, he had 1,367 points.
Yeah.
So he does have a hole in his game. It's strength relative to the best in the world. And we haven't seen anything announced yet that's really testing strength in the capacity that he struggles in. So there's a lot of events here that he'll do well. But I'm expecting him to get to do all 15 events, and I'm expecting 3 or 4 of those events where he'll have relatively worse finishes than the next 6 guys we're about to say on their worst events.
Would you be surprised if Justin Medeiros won the games?
I included Justin Medeiros as one of the 4 people who I think actually has a chance to win the games. And I did that because he's in the category of I don't know how good he is yet because I haven't seen him in a competition like this. Based on his previous competitions, he's shown capacity to win events and to win competitions and to excel in competitions. He's very young. I still think he's getting better. He's got a great relationship with his coach, Adam Neifert, who has a ton of experience. He's got Matt Fraser in his corner. He's been able to train with him and learn some lessons from him this year. There are a ton of good things pushing towards Medeiros having the potential to eventually win the games. I think it's too soon this year, but I did include him in my top 4 in terms of the possibility of winning the games.
His haircut is ass. But
Do you think
else, I agree with you.
Do you think Matt's conveying any real technical information that's beneficial, or is it more of just like having someone like Matt Fraser say to you, hey man, you're really good, I believe in you, you can do this, that really pumps athletes up? Or do you think he's really giving them some special secret sauce about the weekend?
I got to be super transparent here. I haven't spent enough time with the elite athletes having conversations like that to know if Fraser actually knows things and figured things out that other people didn't. But I think that it's fair to say that Fraser is as good as anyone has ever been at seeing a workout and maximizing his potential within that workout. And if he's able to give Medeiros a couple clues here and there, hey, when this thing pops up in a long workout and it's rowing, this is 1-2 things that I do that I don't think a lot of guys are doing. I think he can give them some tips like that, yeah.
Let's ask you that question back, Hobart. I mean, you trained with the best in the biz. Was Froning? Was he giving you advice on strategy, tactics, training, etc., whatever the components are that would make you a better athlete? Or was it primarily like you're in the presence of greatness and it's you're getting it through osmosis?
I mean, honestly, I think it was a little bit 50-50. I learned a ton just from like watching. I don't feel like we ever sat down and talked about like workout strategy about things, but you definitely learned more from watching how they trained than I think you did on how they competed. But
Number 6. I like the tension it builds before the slide flips.
It kills me.
Woo! BKG.
Björgman Carl Gudmundsson, one of the most consistent games athletes ever, really. I mean, 8th, 3rd, 5th, 5th, 8th, 3rd. Those are his last 6 games appearances. Prior to that, he had his rookie season 26th.
Crazy.
He was, oh my God, did I read the wrong thing?
There's no one to fact check you.
Oh, that's so funny.
Facebook is not tracking this.
Okay, this is funny. This is actually kind of funny. So the stats that I gave for Medeiros on 21.4 were actually BKG's stats, but Medeiros' stats were almost identical in the fact that he had less than 100 points on the other 3 workouts and then 1,100 or 1,068 on that workout. So BKG also had this really outlier bad performance on the lifting event. Now, we know he's not that strong. The reason why I don't have BKG any higher than this, and I fear that he may actually possibly do worse in this, is I'm not convinced he's 100%. He did win his semifinal, but he didn't have a good performance relative to other people who did the semifinals, some of whom are on the list ahead of him here. If he's healthy, he's a podium threat. He's done it twice before. He's incredibly good. He's incredibly consistent. He has, there was one year where, I think it was 2018, where his worst finish on the weekend was 21st. It was his only finish outside the top 20, and it was on the clean and jerk speed ladder where he missed advancing to the round of 20 by like 1/10 of a second. And all the guys were super close because the barbells were relatively light, and it was just about execution and jumping over the bar and maybe which foot crossed the line first. So when you're talking about a guy who can compete against 40 of the best and finish in the top half on every single workout, that's a guy that can podium at the games, because he also has the potential to do really well on some workouts. So if he's healthy, he could do better than this. I'm suspicious of the fact that he's not at his optimal form this year, and so 6th is where I have him, understanding that could be like plus or minus 3 based on his health.
I'm disgusted by that lollipop in his mouth.
He still has that same picture of him up there?
Number 5, Paul Fendler.
Just
Number
moving
5,
on.
Paul Fendler.
Now, Paul Fendler's an interesting guy because I don't know him.
Oh, sorry. Number 5. Ooh, I love it. There's our boy, Scott Panchik, holding down the top 5.
Your boy.
He's not your boy?
Okay, before I say anything,
I just put BKG high. I mean, I get the health thing, but I think BKG's back on the podium this year. But what do I know? I'm just a
and
dumb
you think
jock.
this is do you think this is a good spot for Panchik, or am I?
No, this is a great spot for Scott Panchik. Yeah.
He's abusing Scott because of your placement at BKG. Scott's just a scapegoat.
Yep.
When we get to the podium, James, let me know who BKG is going to be on the podium instead of.
Okay.
But in the meantime, and maybe you'll think I've got multiple people on the podium wrong. In the meantime, Scott Panchik, he is one of the ambassadors of CrossFit. 10 years at the games, inside the top 6, 7 different times at the games. I mean, it's an incredible, incredible resume. Never on the podium. I know there are a ton of people pushing and hoping that he'll get on the podium this year. I kind of think this is actually the best version of Scott Panchik we've ever seen this season. I think that one of the best things that happened for him was going team and learning from Rich in that offseason. Rich used to be obviously a huge competitor of his, and people can maybe remember, and if they can't remember, they should go back and watch that epic battle that they had at Central East Regional. I think that was 2014, where Scott was like nipping at his heels on event after event after event, and Rich has rarely been pushed like that in competition. Scott has a tremendous capacity, tremendous strength, tremendous experience to draw on. He's a threat in this competition without a doubt. He'll think that this is his best chance to podium, rightfully so. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. I just think that the 4 guys that I have ahead of him are better than him.
And I'm going to do
kind of as simple as that.
I'm going to do a bias vote here. Even though I'm a huge BKG fan, I think not enough people talk about this. I know the sport's the sport, but like Scott started an awesome grassroots competition that's CrossFit sanctioned. He's a big affiliate guy. He's an amazing athlete. He's super nice. Like, he's just the kind of athlete you want on the podium for a million reasons. Pat Sherwood once said to me, he said, I've met great athletes. I've met, what did he say, very cool people or very good people. He says, you rarely meet people who are, great performers and good people. And I think, you want more Scott Panchiks in the games field on the podium. I will say that.
You would be hard-pressed to find anyone who could talk shit about Scott if he won the CrossFit Games this year.
Yeah.
He took first place. I think pretty much everyone would be happy.
But
number 4.
I got to get your reactions here before I say anything.
Woo. I like it, man.
James?
who is it?
It's Noah Olsen. His confidence is skyrocketing.
Is that because of his performance in spite of the year he's had, or like the sacrifices? I mean, he said, this is the hardest he's ever pushed for this year, the most he's given up for this year. I read in a recent Instagram post. I might be paraphrasing, but
I'm going to just tell you real quick right now. His body gets in the top 5 too. I think I have 5 now. No one else better have a better.
No, you're at 4. You're at 4. You still got one.
I would
to go. I'm
sell
impressed.
vital parts of my anatomy to have Noah Olsen's torso put on
crazy.
my legs, man.
Before I talk about Noah, Sevan, I'm impressed. We've got 3 guys to go, and you still have 1 guy left in your top 5. You're doing really, really well.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I'm
Noah
impressed.
Olsen. Similar to Scott and BKG, he's been around for a while. This is his 8th year at the games, and you'll see most of these guys I have in the top 10 have a lot of experience. And I think on the men's side, the experience is still going to carry this year. Noah wasn't 100% going into the semifinal. I already talked about how he was unable to beat Cole Sager there. He was unable to beat Cole Sager at Wadapalooza, But Noah's this type of guy to me that he knows how to prep for the games, and he knows how to bring just a step up his level a little bit more at the games than anything else. If you look at his sanctional finishes, third, 11th, and 8th. It's not great for a guy who has games finishes of 2nd, 4th, 6th, 4th, 8th, and 8th. So he does better at the games than outside competitions, and that's why I think that despite not winning the West Coast Classic, he'll beat Cole this weekend and be pushing for the podium. I have him missing it by one spot. I know a lot of people think he can podium. I know a lot of people think he can win. I think he's going to be right there knocking on the door, but I see Noah 4th.
Hobart, what do you think about this? By the way, there's a lot of great comments in the chat. Thank you guys for doing that. This is an interesting comment. Some guy named Chris said, sorry, he gets in his own way. And I kind of feel that. I feel like Noah has everything to win. Like, I'm not saying he's jinxed or that he's just like a complete fucking, shit show and like, but I mean, the most obvious is when he dumped the wheelbarrow, or the year he came out in one of those final events too hot. I mean, but I mean, the guy has everything, right?
He does, yeah. He's good in the water. He can run. He can, he's at least in the top half of everything. He can lift. Gymnastics is great. He can win events. He's excellent. His execution is good. He does have this event every year where it seems like he doesn't just leave some points on the table, but leaves like a ton of points on the table and costs himself. I just listed off his event finishes 6 times in the top 8, I think I said, but those could all have been a little bit better if he hadn't had those just minor little hiccups and slip-ups here and there. And you just wonder, for a guy who's getting ready to come to the games for his 8th time, like, when are you going to figure out that you don't have to win round 1 of the workout? You need to win the workout, So I'm hopeful that this year he's going to turn that corner, and maybe he won't have that slip-up of an event. Even if he doesn't, I'm not sure he can beat any of the top 3 guys.
Hobart, I'd like to hear your thoughts on strategy, mental prep, the non-tangibles.
I don't know. I'm thinking through with Noah. I've always been a big admirer of his progress as an individual athlete. Second, I agree on the pacing thing, because it does seem like he comes out way too hot early on. You know what I wonder with Noah, and he's got the whole like happy but hungry kind of thing, and Noah always seems really positive in interviews, and I wonder if he needs to like just turn that nasty up a little bit. Hey, I don't love all my fellow competitors that much right now. And maybe he doesn't when he's out. I imagine when he's on the floor, he doesn't feel that way, but maybe he's got to look left and right a little more often and be like, I got to smash him. I'm going to pace with him. I'm going to blast that guy out of the water. I don't know.
I've seen him have that ferocity before some events, but I don't think he has it before every event. And I think that you're right. He needs to come into this competition aggressive, and not aggressive in the sense of blowing up on the first round of a workout aggressive, but aggressive in the force of, I want to beat you, every one of you, and carry that mindset through for 5 days.
Yeah, like every event he's looking and like, hey, I got to knock that guy out. Great, he's down. I'm going to go knock that guy out. And I've never really, I don't know Noah that well, so I've never sat down and talked to him about it. I'm sure he has some of that because you're not that successful without it, but I don't know.
1 year in Carson, I don't remember what year it was, maybe his 3rd or 4th year, for the first couple days, he was pretty serious, and then all of a sudden he lightened up, and he wasn't doing that well. And I said, hey, what's up? What happened? And he goes, I was trying to take the games more serious, and it was hurting me. It's not who I am. And he went back to being way more like happy and cracking jokes back there. So there is definitely a fine line, I mean, I don't think that he is a legit veteran. And I know he's tried a lot of different tactics and working on himself to get in the best, not only physical, but mental mindset. There's no point to what I'm saying, just adding another data point. Number 3. Jason Hopper. That's what I'm guessing. I guess. Wow.
Wow.
I'm surprised you put Fikowski ahead of Hopper. That means you think that Fikowski is past his prime and is getting old.
What? Not at all. No, I think Fikowski is primed to dominate the competition this weekend. And honestly, the more events I find out about, the more comfortable I feel with this pick, and even the potential to do better than this. He is amongst the best we've ever seen in live competition. Honestly, with the exception of the 2019 season, when he showed up for a live competition, he is lethal. He is a force to be reckoned with. In sanctionals, he was first, and second at the 3 he went to. He's a 3-time regional winner. His first 3 years at the games, he was fourth, second, and fourth. This guy is a force to be reckoned with in live competition. He's a force to be reckoned with at the games. I have, where Hobart says I maybe emphasize or de-emphasize performances from the last year or two. In that case, I'm literally throwing out his finishes from 2019 and 2020 because they are such big outliers relative to everything else he's ever done. I think he is extremely focused, extremely dialed in. I think he's making the types of life choices and sacrifices this year that Fraser talked about making, that people thought were like, wow, he was really going to extremes to make sure he was in the best possible shape to win the CrossFit Games. I think Fikowski will see this. If he ever saw this ranking of third, I think he would say, I intend to do a hell of a lot better than third. I think he is showing up this weekend with the purpose, focus, intent, and ultimate goal to win the CrossFit Games. I wouldn't be surprised if he does, but I'm putting him third because I just think the other two guys are a little bit better.
I think that Bernd Fikowski has something that I can't say about every athlete that's huge. He will fight to the death every workout. He can do poorly and come back strong. He can not be doing well, be down, at the games and come back strong. I don't think he ever sees himself out of it. I think mentally he is, I don't know if it's mentally he's strong, but he's so calculated, maybe, whatever the reason is. I don't know what the process is or what the procedure he has going on in his brain, but he never counts himself out. And that's what makes him very dangerous. And we know Rich Froning also had that he was, I don't know if we ever had to see Matt deal with that, but definitely he's in it to win it no matter what. He's always a threat. If he's on the floor, he's a threat.
When you say in it to win it, it turns out he has more event wins at the CrossFit Games than anyone else in the field this year, despite not having as much experience as some of these other top guys. His first year at the Games, he won 4 events. I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think there's only 3 guys in the history of the Games that have ever won 4 events in one Games, and the other 2 guys have also won at least 4 titles at the CrossFit Games.
And this is going to sound kind of maybe stupid, but it's like I think there are so many people in CrossFit who compete, make it to the Games that are fit, and they're like in the gym fit, but then it's like they're just not great competitors in the sense of like there's just something different about being at the Games with the best, 0.0001% in front of a judge, in front of fans with all that stress. And it's like Fikowski is just someone who's amazing at handling and taking all that stuff and doing something good with it. And there are so many super fit people that I would probably beat Brent in, online competitions or 100 out of, 100 out of 101 workouts in the gym. But you flip the lights on, in the Coliseum, and he's like, I'm just going to wreck your world, man. There's just not, there's just people like that. I don't know what that is. It's a million different things. But
the other thing that's amazing about Fikowski is some of the people at the Games that win multiple events at the Games, they win the same kind of events over and over. They've got 3 wins at the Games, they were all swimming events. They've got 3 wins at the Games, they were all running events. Check this out. Fikowski's got a win in run, swim, run. That's a long, grinding endurance event. He also has a win in 100%, which was a lightning fast box jump over, D-ball over the sandbag or over the shoulder sprint event and under the lights at the tennis stadium at the Games where everyone was neck and neck, and all of a sudden it's Fikowski that comes out and wins the event. Rope chipper, he was at the back, he's the middle of the pack, pulls the sled better than anyone else to win. Strongman sphere clips Matt Fraser by less than a second to win that event. Ranch mini chipper in the dust of Aromas, 3rd day after a long travel day, he runs up the hill with the wall ball faster than anyone. Climbing snail, odd object, weird implement, rope climbs and running, wins this event. He's won in every time domain. He's won with all the nuanced things that show up at the Games. He could snatch over 300 pounds, so he's going to do well in the lifting event. Maybe he won't do great on handstand, walk, and running event, but give me the generalist over the specialist at the Games, and especially when the generalist can also excel in several different time domains and weird kind of stuff that we only see at the Games.
Did you
You
hear
wanna
that?
move Fikowski?
Did you hear that
You
in
wanna
the
move
in
him?
the dust of aromas? Do you hear that little artistic like bam? Brian's his game is up right now.
Too much time on talking elite fitness is making
That
him
was so good.
smarter.
But he's still you're not putting. But here's the deal: all that nice stuff said, and he's still not beating Jason Hopper. Boom! Wow, Brian, friend.
Well, let's go to number 2.
Throwing
Number 2.
haymakers.
I think number 2 makes Brian so uncomfortable. I think this is like Brian like when he got the first time he had a car and he wanted to see how fast it could go. He's really
And I was like, 80, 85. Oh my God.
this is really bizarre and uncomfortable for you. I think that's my feeling about you putting Jason Hopper at number 2.
The reason that it's
It's like buying a
uncomfortable for
fucking
me.
lotto ticket. It's like buying a lotto ticket, and you're not the kind of guy who buys a lotto ticket.
Fair, and that's the reason why if anything, it would be uncomfortable for me is because I don't have a long laundry list of accolades to list off for why Hopper deserves a ranking like this. Instead, I'm going almost on the opposite end of the spectrum and saying, once in a while, a guy comes around that just has it, and I don't know if I'm right, but I feel like this is the next guy that just has something that you can't teach. I cannot get over it wasn't his results at the Mid-Atlantic. He won half the events there. Scott Panchik was there. Justin Medeiros was there. Travis Mayer was there. These guys are incredible. He wasn't just beating them. He would finish workouts. They'd be 10 to 30 seconds behind him, come across dying and rolling around on the floor in agony, and he was just standing there like, I'm supposed to be here. It was eerily impressive. And I can't ignore it. I can't ignore the way in which he was winning and the way in which he was executing. He's a young guy with relatively little experience who is okay letting people like Medeiros and Panchik and Travis Williams get out in front, and he just reeled them in and methodically beat them over and over again. Besides those 3 event wins, he was second, and 8th, and the 8th place was in Gretel, which he was like, he made a mistake in the competition and still was only 16 seconds away from winning that event too.
I think
Go ahead.
I think Hopper has 2 crazy things going for him, intangibles. I think he thrives under pressure. Thrives. And I think he's a fucking crowd freak. I think when he goes out there and feels that energy from that crowd, he will suck it all off of them. I think he really knows how to perform live. I think he even blows himself away. I think he surprises himself. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's not a nervous wreck like the rest of the guys, but I think the second it's go time, I think he loves the pressure. Let me rephrase that. I don't think he loves the pressure. I think he knows he flourishes under pressure, so he's willing to deal with the uncomfortableness of it. And then 2, I think he really, really appreciates the crowd. Like, really appreciates them.
Any thoughts on Hopper Hobart? I got a couple more.
No, I want to get caught up on. I got to rewatch I didn't watch the entire Mid-Atlantic, so now where you're putting him, I'm going to watch it and give it a nice hard, under the microscope this weekend. But I mean, the last time I've heard people, so Patrick Cummings, who was a videographer for Again Faster way back when, came up from a southeastern, whatever, semifinal sanctional, years ago, and said, "Hey, there's this guy Rich Froning, and the way he's beating everybody." And I was like, "Whatever, Pat. Like, who is this? Richard Froning. Whoever this guy is."
Froning, I remember that.
And then Rich did everything he did, and Fraser was the same way. Northeast Regional, everybody was like, "You got to watch out for this guy, Matt," and finished second the first couple years of the games, and the way he would beat people was exactly like you're talking about. Like, he would win. And he was kind of like, all right, that was really cool. And everyone else would be just they had to kill themselves to get second. So, I mean, I've heard, I've seen this with other athletes before. So if I trust anyone, I trust you.
Well, and I mean, yeah, and that's right. And and Dave said he was impressed by him. I talked to the Buttery Bros. They trained with him. They're like, man, this guy's good. And I have Fraser said this guy's good. And, that's some pretty high praise. He definitely has some questions to answer, and I've talked to him about it before. I think that the biggest obstacle for him this year is when something doesn't go his way, how does he recover from that? And if he's able to, because it's the games, something's not going to go your way. And if that doesn't disrupt him from doing what he set out here to do, if he can overcome that and handle that, I feel confident that he can be that next. Forget about the next guy. I feel like he can be right there in the mix this year.
That's exciting. That's so exciting.
Yeah, I would say he's kind of like Noah. He's got a lot of control over his where other people have to do need to maybe worry about the other athletes. I think Hopper and Noah, as long as they stay in their game, we're gonna see some crazy shit. Number 1,
Matt Fraser.
There are some funny comments, by the way. You guys are killing it in the YouTube comments. I love it. So
Give us
good.
what's something good.
Because I said he's sucking energy off the crowd. Some guy responded, "Sucking off the crowd could be considered bribery." That's the kind of childish, immature shit that I would say.
Put that person in it. Can you do something opposite of a timeout? Can you like boost? Make him a moderator.
Yeah, like pin his comment. Number 1, no surprise here for a variety of reasons. If you listen to Brian talk, obviously the people who are the better CrossFitters get more time out of his mouth. We know how great Patrick Vellner is. But for some reason, Brian thinks that this is his time to shine, and he has said a lot of nice stuff about the people in the top 10. Actually, a lot of nice stuff about people in the top 38. Why Vellner, Brian?
Because outside of Fraser and Fikowski, no one's beaten him in 5 years in a live competition where he's been able to finish the competition. I think he's healthier than he's ever been. I think he's happier in his life than he's ever been. I think he told us he's a little bit bummed out that Fraser's not here because he wanted to beat him. I think he always held on to a little bit of hope that he could, but I think that he's wise enough and mature enough to say he's not here. And for me, this is Vellner's opportunity. I'm not saying that these guys can't beat him, but I'm saying he's the guy to beat. And until someone beats him here at the games this year, I feel comfortable saying he's the favorite. And if you're their favorite, you get number 1 on my pre-event rankings.
What I think is cool about Vellner, like everyone will get out there and say like, hey, I'd love to take a shot at Matt Fraser, but I don't think a lot of people would be like, hey, I'd like to take a shot at the champ and then let the champ hit me back. I think Vellner has that. And he's never been afraid of saying like, why couldn't I beat Matt Fraser? Like, which I think with his fitness level and his pedigree is dangerous. So it'd be very cool to see him win this year, and definitely possible.
I agree with you 100%. That's what I was going to say, Hobart, too. Not as eloquently as you, but I think he means it when he says you feel from Pat that he wants to beat the best guy. And and I think that that's indicative of how good he thinks he is and the work he's put in. So it's hard to argue. Oh, you're getting just tore up in the comments, though, Brian. I can't say that I don't. It hurts me. Brian loves Pat. Brian is biased. We all know it.
Yeah, but all those
that's fine though.
Maybe
that's
he is,
fine.
but like who right. beats Vellner? Everyone in the comments. That's what I want to hear.
Right, and it's fair for them to say that, but on the other hand, it doesn't take away anything from the fact that like
his results speak for themselves.
Why don't you guys put in the comments who do you think is going to win?
Yeah.
What's weird is that the only other person. Yeah, who do you guys think is going to win? I mean, Ron Sutton says Panchik, Fikowski, Vellner will podium, but who's going to beat Vellner? It's a really good question. When you just look at him and then you start pulling guys up and putting them next to him, who is going to beat him?
He only shows up for the best competitions. First at Wadapalooza both years. First at Rogue, second at Rogue to Fraser, and second to Fikowski at Dubai. Those are the most recent relevant competitions that he's competed in. And the 3 years he's been able to finish the games, he's been on the podium every year. I'm friends with Pat, great, but he's also the best guy in the field. And until someone beats him, he's going to stay up there at the top for me.
And someone, CrossFit West Oahu said a very interesting point. You could also say about Vellner. Vellner, you can't say Fraser would definitely beat him. There are some guys in that top 40 list that you could say, top 38 list, hey, we'll fucking dust Fraser off right now from his bodybuilding routine, and probably you'd bet on Matt. You could, Vellner is, you can't just say that Matt would just crush Vellner. Although Samuel thinks that Froning can. And I find that fascinating. Absolutely.
Well, Sam
Fascinating.
Cornway said that he could beat
'Cause I
Vona
believe him.
himself. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's a lot of
And I do,
confidence.
and I do believe when Samuel says that Rich is the fittest man walking the planet right now. There's at least 51% of me that it's really hard not to think that. It's really hard. I mean, I know I have a lot of bias just because I was watching the sport so closely when he won 4 games. But man,
I don't know.
what don't you know?
No,
Hobart?
it's break time.
Sorry.
Break time. I'm hungry.
I knew it.
I'm hungry.
Okay, guys, we are going to take a 2-minute break. I'm going to take my 18th pee of the show, and we will be back with the women's placement 1 through 40 at the 2021 CrossFit Games. Thanks for tuning in.